Just thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to chat about your time at Exeter and your career afterwards. Firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing really well. I have to say, lockdown's hard for everybody, but things seem to be moving a little bit more now. So we're taking everything day by day, week by week, on all the decisions that need to be made. But it's good spending a lot of time with the family, with the kids, and obviously keeping myself fit at the same time. So yeah, I'm in a good place.
Just wanted to start with something I actually read this morning. You ended up becoming a footballer, but it was a choice between that and rugby at 16. What made you pick football? And I'm guessing, looking back, you're kind of glad you made that decision.
Yeah, I think I might not be sat here if I picked rugby, because I probably wouldn't have been big and strong enough to do that anyway. But no, I love rugby, and coming from Devon, as people know, and Exeter fans will know as well, with the Chiefs there, it's a big part of the West Country rugby, and it almost eclipses football. Whereas in the rest of the UK, football tends to be bigger. So I was brought up with rugby. My dad played rugby. No one in my family played football. So my hero growing up was Johnny Wilkinson. So it was just the fact that I had that link with Exeter, and I used to play rugby on a Saturday, football on a Sunday, and I used to, believe it or not, score a lot of goals on a Sunday. They diminished over the years. Every year I got older, I'd score less, but Exeter took that chance on me, and the rest is history, really. And then at 16, I had to make a decision. Mike Radford came down to the school I was playing rugby at, and they sort of cut a deal where I was allowed to come and train with Exeter City, because I didn't do a YTS or an apprenticeship or anything like that. So it was a bit of a different setup, but I had to make that decision. I do miss rugby, and have ever since, but I think playing football has probably been the better decision.
What was the club like back in the early days for you?
I mean, I didn't know any different. And being a farmer's son from North Devon, I kind of imagined every football club was pretty similar. Like I said, my family didn't have any knowledge of football, but I just remember it. So everyone was always very friendly there. Like I said, Mike Radford was an excellent teacher in that sense, as a young lad growing up, not just about the football side, but he kept you in line as well. And obviously, dear Eamon Dolan, who's not with us anymore, but he was one of the biggest inspirations, and had one of the biggest effects on my career out of everyone. So so sad when he passed away, but I mean, what a great guy and ambassador and role model and everything, for not just for Exeter but for football. It was he was a big part of my early development.
When you were a trainee, I believe you continued your education at college. I wanted to make sure you protected your future. Were you pleased that the club, supported you through that?
Yeah, like I said, Raddy came down to the school I was at, and we made that arrangement. But Exeter were really obviously keen for me to keep training, but they understood the decision at the time to carry on my studies. And my parents had the view that if I'm good enough, I'll make it, and if I can get my A levels done at the same time, then if I'm not good enough, then I'll be able to go to university. So I'm pleased they pushed for that, because probably if it was my decision, I would have wanted to just play football. So yeah, I'm very pleased I did that.
I'm told Justin Quick mentioned that he used to bring eggs into training for everyone at the training ground, and apparently even Tiz used to get some after you left. What was the story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, my dad's a bit of a character, and at the time we had he had a chicken farm. We had 125,000 chickens, so we could spare a few eggs for a few people. And he did used to bring them in for some players, and obviously Tiz. And actually, when I signed for Wolves, he gave Mick McCarthy a chicken. So yeah, he was, and he used to stock me up with all sorts to take to the lads in the back of my car. So it was a good icebreaker, but I don't think it had been done that many times before. But yeah, no, I'm pleased he did that, and it was sort of brought that community spirit, and I don't know, it takes away the other side of football that people don't really like to see, maybe, and makes it a bit more genuine.
So it's a bit like taking an apple in for the teacher, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't get me playing early though, bringing eggs in. I had to wait my time, which is again a good thing about Tiz. He wouldn't put you on until he trusted you. And no matter how many eggs I could have brought in, I wasn't going to play until I was ready.
Do you feel that growing up on that farm environment sort of shaped you into the person that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a brilliant farmer. I'll hold my hands up and say that. My dad would be the first one to admit that. I've got an older brother, so he was always going to take on the farming side. But I used to, earn my keep, as my dad used to say, in the morning before training. When I got my first professional contract, I still lived in North Devon, so I'd feed the cows in the morning, then get in my car and drive to training. And I think that ethos from my dad of just staying grounded, working hard, and that was sort of the way I used to pay my rent, because I wasn't on enough money at the time to live away from home. So I think my mum and dad have been amazing for me and for my career, and I couldn't have got to where I am without them. And I think a lot of footballers would probably feel the same. But yeah, my parents have been amazing throughout, and they still support me now.
You made your Exeter debut in the conference away at Forest Green Rovers in 2006 at the age of 19. How was that experience?
I've never been so nervous. It was their old ground as well, not their new eco-friendly one. It was the one before, and I'm pretty sure Scott Hiley had left the season before, and I was given the number 2 shirt, and I didn't know I was getting it for that game, and I think it was that, and I saw it up on the peg at Forest Green, and just seeing that, I was so proud to see that friend and the number 2, and I think it was a pretty bad game. I think it was 0-0.
Yeah. That's for a defender, though, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I might have played more left midfield actually, and I don't think I played particularly well either. But I was just so proud, honoured, and pleased to be out there. There were people like Matt Gill playing, and he really helped me through it and stuff. So yeah, it was a great experience.
And after that, it took a couple of seasons before you sort of got your name down on the team sheet regularly. Did you go on a couple of loans at that point?
Yeah, I went to Tiverton and Team Bath. I think Tiverton seems to be the staple loan for a young player at Exeter, and why not? I mean, it's a great way to get some games under your belt. You grow up a bit. I actually fractured my patella on loan at Tiverton. I remember it was a rude awakening to the lower leagues. I nutmegged someone, and then the next time I got it, he absolutely cleaned me out, and that was a bit of my kneecap went a bit wobbly. So. Again, it's all those parts of experiences, and I was obviously able to overcome that injury. And Team Bath was probably the turning point for me. So it was Tiz's old stomping ground, and he had good connections there. And that's where I met Matt Taylor, Neil Saunders for the first time as well. And we had a very strong team. If you look at a lot of where those Team Bath players went, they went on to play in the Football League again, and a lot went to go and get good jobs in football as well. So it was a really good, strong group. And I played every game and really developed, and that allowed me to come back and push for a place in the Exeter team.
And you went on to make 30 appearances in that season as Exeter promoted to the Football League. What are your memories of that season?
Of course, Wembley was obviously the highlight of that season, and just playing all the time. I mean, I lived for the games every weekend, being able to play out it. I mean, I used to dream of playing at St James's Park, and I didn't really think about what level it was at. Being in the conference at the time, it was just, I was so pleased to be playing there, and I learned every single game. We had people like Rob Edwards. I mentioned Matt Gill before. Some of these senior players were just so good to me, and I learned a lot from them. And we had a very good team. Again, I always look at that team, and you see where all those individuals sort of dispersed throughout the Football League. Some went on to play in the Premier League, and all had pretty good careers, and still having good careers, a lot of them. So we had a very strong team, and it was a great group to be part of. And Tiz did a real special job there. You
had obviously yourself and Dean Moxley vying for those left-sided positions, which must have been quite a fun battle to be part of.
Yeah, Dino's had and having a great career. I spoke to him recently, and I'm pleased he's gone back to Exeter. I kind of always felt he would, being an Exeter lad as well, and I'm sure the fans are really pleased he's gone back there, because he's a very good footballer. He's had like I said, great career consistently over the years, playing for some big clubs and going to the Premier League himself. So it wasn't any sort of, we didn't see it as competition in that way. We all played together. And like I said, it was a very harmonious dressing room, actually. It just sort of clicked, and that's, I think, what allowed us to get that promotion.
You mentioned enjoying playing under Tiz. What was he like as a manager, and how did he sort of support your development?
Yeah, he was very honest with me. I mean, I used to ask him, "Can I play? Why aren't I playing?" I just wanted to play so badly. I was always up there, being one of the fittest. I always trained hard, ran my hardest. But he said, "Until I can trust you, I'm not going to play you." And I never really understood it as a young player until a bit later on, after a few games, and it did make sense, because how can he put me out on the pitch if he can't trust that I'm going to do the job, especially as more of a defensive player? So once I earned that trust, and he could see I was ready to go, he sort of let the leash off, and that allowed me to really develop. But yeah, at the start he was tough on me, but that's exactly how it should have been. And his training was so thorough as well. Even back in the conference, he was doing stuff that I've done since in the Championship and Premier League, and this is a long time ago as well. So he was almost ahead of his time in terms of that as well.
Another person who was a key influence at that point would have been Steve Perriman. How much influence did he have on your career?
Yeah, again, a huge interest. I talk to him still now, and again, spoke to him recently. He's been superb all the way, so easy to talk to, and again was hard on the young players at the start, and used to say, you know, those northern, if they were playing a northern team, he'd say, "Oh, those northern lads, they think you're all soft down here," and he'd use that kind of psychology. But it was true, because I feel sometimes in Devon, when you can be in a bit of a bubble, you don't realise the rest of the country, and you need that bit of metal and bit of steel to play against some of these teams. And he put that into us because of all his experience, and he's played against everyone, and incredible career. So he was a huge influence and very helpful, and still is now.
And you went on to score your first City goal away at Burton in a pretty remarkable 4-4 draw. I think it was 1-1 at half time. What do you remember about that? I think did you make it 4-3?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just remember it not being that great a goal, but it might have been with my right foot, which was a surprise to everyone and me, of course. It was again, it was quite a nice little ground at the time, the Pirelli Stadium. I remember it was relatively new, and my mum and dad were there, and just great to score, because I obviously not known for my goals, and that being my first one, I was very proud.
And a very interesting result as well. I mean, probably indicative of that season as well. There were some crazy scorelines going around, weren't there?
Yeah, it was just one of those seasons, I guess, where you never knew what was going to happen, but you always felt we had goals in us, which is nice. And it's nice. I played in quite a few different teams now, and when you're in a team where you know you could score if you really needed to, then yeah, it's better to be in a team like that, I think, because I've played in some teams where you're thinking, where's the next goal going to come? So yeah, again, every season's different, but we had a good group.
And one of the standout moments of that season has to be the playoff semi-final down at Plainmoor, and especially the last 20 minutes. I mean, would you say that was one of the best spells of football you've been involved in your career?
Oh, it was brilliant. I probably at the time, because I was young, I didn't appreciate probably how good it was. I just remember Ryan Harley and Rob Edwards, correct me if I'm wrong, but they seemed to just run the show for that last little bit. I might have actually even come off, so I had a good view from the dugout, but it was excellent. And again, like you said, an incredible result and an amazing way to get through. So to be against local rivals like that, it was a special day. And it's things like that jog your memory, because actually I hadn't thought about it until you just said it there for quite a while. So those times that they never leave you and never be taken away.
How do you celebrate that kind of thing? You know, 70 minutes in, it looks like your season's over, to suddenly you're playing at Wembley in a week's time.
Yeah, for me, it's not so much like the celebrations afterwards, you know, going out or anything like that. It's immediately in the changing room afterwards or on the pitch. They're the best moments for me, and they're the bits you can never recreate. And like I said, no one can take them away from you. And we had a very good group there, and it was brilliant and a great environment and atmosphere then to lead us on to Wembley.
And I spoke to Steve Tully recently, reminiscing about his exploits in the post-match interview. Was that something that was mentioned afterwards at all?
Yeah, I'm sure. Like I say, some of it's a bit of a haze, but Tully was always a real big character, and he was something that Tiz used to call him an energizer, because he certainly wasn't a sapper. He used to keep everyone going, so energetic and vibrant all the time, and a great addition to the team there, and a great guy to have around.
And you obviously played alongside Adam Stansfield as well in your time. I'm assuming you have some really fond and strong memories of him.
Yeah, Stano was. He's just so. He worked so hard all the time, and it was such a shock when that all happened, obviously, and it just brought everything into perspective. Football wasn't even important anymore. But as a player, I mean, you could kick it in completely the wrong area up the pitch, and Stano somehow would be able to he'd sprint and get it and be able to get on the end of it, and it made that pass look like it was intended to go there, and pretty much all of my passes were like that. So he was one of those people that just worked so hard for the team, but also was very calm off the pitch and relaxed guy, and good to have around. So it was a tough moment for the dressing room, and of course even harder for his family, his friends, and even the fans, because he was such a great guy. And I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but his son's doing really well, isn't he? And yeah, at Fulham, and it'd be great to see how his career goes and progresses. And I'm really pleased that he's sort of taking on the mantle for his dad.
You're part of the team that won promotion at Wembley, defeating Cambridge. What was that experience like? Was that sort of like one of the highlights of your career at the time, reaching Wembley?
Without a doubt. I mean, it's shared with two of my closest friends in football as well, with Neil Saunders and Matt Taylor. So that made it extra special, and we all lived together at the time. So we all enjoyed that journey right from the start, and then to get to Wembley, and we obviously had the feeling of not winning. I think it was the year before, wasn't it, as well? So we knew what we had to do, and when Rob Edwards scored that goal, I mean, it was just incredible, and it was a great thing to be part of at such a young age as well in my career. And yeah, I'll never forget it. I've got a picture that I have up in my house of the three of us celebrating it, and all the Exeter fans there at Wembley, and it's fantastic, and also a shirt framed as well. So what a moment. You can't describe it. It was so important for the club, it felt, as well, which also added to it. I think it wasn't just a novel promotion. It was something we needed to get out of that league, and we'd finally done it, and we were back in the Football League, and it was so important to everyone.
You mentioned there that you live with Matt Taylor. I was actually speaking to him this morning about that, and I was going to mention it, and he said that he reckons he may have taught you some life skills. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, that was the first time I lived away from home, and living with Neil and Matt it made me grow up, definitely. And Matt and I, because at the time we didn't used to have food made for us after training or anything, so Matt and I used to, straight after training, come back home, and we had this egg poacher, which I'm not joking, it was like a dustbin lid, and it could do about 15, 18 eggs, and we should just pile eggs into it like that and do poached eggs on toast and things like that. And it was I think we were called the student house by the rest of the team, but we actually lived pretty well and ate very well, actually, so I don't know why we got that nickname. But no, they were great for me, and I really grew up living with them, and they taught me a lot of things, and great to live with teammates as well like that. And for any young players, I think it's a good thing to do, because you've all got the same routines. Matt was brilliant, and he taught me all the gym side of it and conditioning and stuff. I had no education on that, and he was really into that, and he'd take me down to Fitness First in Exeter, and he'd make sure we did our gym and things like that. So no, they're both important parts of my career, really, and now very good friends.
And what was he like to play alongside as well? I mean, I think Tully also said that he'd head a brick. Yeah.
There's a few analogies you could call it. He head a brick. He could head washing machines, anything. I don't think he lost a header, honestly. And that sounds a massive shout, but I think the whole time I played with him, he didn't lose a header. And of course, in football, as a fullback, you're supposed to cover around your centre back just in case they miss the header, so it goes over. But I do remember times in games I thought I'm not even going to cover back because he's not losing that. And then one season as well, was it the season we got promoted? It must have been. He scored all those goals from corners. And they weren't all with his head, actually. He had these Mizunos and he would score these Mizuno boots. And he'd scored like double figures easily. I mean, it might have even been 13, 14 goals. And he was on fire. So, very good player. Like I said, great professional. Kept himself in really good condition, worked hard. And really good defender, read it well, good heading. So I'm sure he's able to pass on a lot now. He's a manager, and it doesn't surprise me he's a manager either, because he's got the right mentality to coach as well as manage players.
Well, have you been impressed at how well he's done since he's taken over? Because it was a difficult job to go into after Tiz had been there for over 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point. I mean, you look at a lot of managers that come in after someone's been there for a long time, and they struggle and they're out the door very quickly. But Matt's been able to get in players that he wants and manage to keep things going really and be right up there. And of course, this season's been crazy with everything that's going on, and you truly believe if it was allowed to carry on, Exeter would have got that promotion spot, no problem. I follow every single game, watch all the highlights, and speak to Matt as well. And it's a shame that things might be different now. We'll have to just see how it plays out. But I'll be supporting them all the way, definitely.
During your time at Exeter, you also became their youngest ever captain. I mean, that must have been quite an honour as well at a young age.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of young players. Has that been broken or not? The captain, I'm not sure if it has.
What age were you when you became captain?
About 15. No, I'm joking. Probably 19. I don't know if it was 19. Yeah.
Archie's been captain this year, but I think he's in his 20s now, so it might still be. I'll have to check that one.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously, as you can tell, I'm very proud of it, so I don't really want it to be broken. I think there was a few people that were injured at the time, so it wasn't as if I was the club captain or anything, but I was still honoured that I got given the armband. And as a Devon lad, I think everyone wants to captain their home team as well. So yeah, incredibly proud, and I'm still proud now of that record if it still stands. Someone will probably say otherwise, but yeah, it's a great thing to have, and I remember wearing that armband. It was a great moment.
You would go on to transfer to Wolves, and that transfer happened very quickly, didn't it? Was it on deadline day?
Yeah.
How was that for you? Because you'd already played a few games for Exeter that season, hadn't you? I think?
Yeah, so we'd started a few games in League Two, and I remember my agent saying, yeah, it looks like it's going to happen. They're working out the fee, and it was either to Wolves or Bristol City. But again, my knowledge of football was terrible. I feel really bad now. But as a young kid from North Devon, I didn't really know how big a club Wolves were. I was just saying to him, okay, well, if Exeter are happy with it, then yeah, I'll go to Wolves, because I was ambitious, of course. Wolves were top of the Championship at the time. So to go from just being promoted to League Two to top of the Championship, of course, I was up for it, and I kind of felt like if I'm going to get a chance, this is now. But I remember getting there and thinking, oh, this is quite a big club actually. And like I said, they were top of the Championship. We went on to get promoted to the Premier League. I didn't play as many games as I'd hoped to, but it was amazing to be part of that team and being a promotion-winning team to the Premier League as well. And Mick McCarthy was brilliant in the same way that a lot of those Exeter coaches and people have been good role models. I learned a lot from him as well.
Did it take a while to adapt to the way Wolves were in terms of how different they were to Exeter as well, and what was expected of you?
Yeah, I went from obviously living with Matt and Neil to living on my own in the Midlands, and obviously the jump to Championship football was quite a lot, and I didn't really prepare myself for that, I don't think, and that was one of the reasons I didn't play. And actually, I probably wasn't good enough to play in that Wolves team. There were better players than me at the time. I needed more games under my belt, but at the same time, I couldn't say, I want to stay at Exeter for a bit longer. It was either I go now or not, and sometimes you have to make those decisions, and probably would have preferred to stay at Exeter and get more games under my belt, but it doesn't work like that. And I was allowed to go back on loan to Exeter anyway, so I was able to do that, and that did improve me as a player and got me a move later to Doncaster anyway.
And while you're at Wolves, you had some loans at Millwall, Southend, and Scunthorpe. Again, was that just about getting out and playing and keeping yourself going?
Yeah, just playing games. I was used to playing every week for Exeter at that time, and of course, Wolves got promoted to the Premier League, and I knew my game time was going to be limited, so it was important to get out and play. And I only had a year left on my contract, and I'm ambitious. I wanted to try and play at the highest level possible. So I grew up a lot, especially in my Millwall loan. That was an interesting one. So coming back to Exeter though was the best loan, obviously, because I was able to come back and play with some of the lads. I slept on Matt Taylor's floor, I think it was, in his living room, and yeah, it was excellent, and it was a memorable season again.
Just before we go on to that, I just wanted to mention that you obviously made your Premier League debut as well whilst at Wolves against Man United. How did you feel at that point? Did you feel like you'd nearly reached where you wanted to be?
No, I don't think. I think it was a bit of. I was quite lucky to make that debut because it was a changed team, because it was against Man United, and the week after we played Burnley, and the manager was resting a lot of players. But I didn't care. Obviously, I just was pleased, and it was such an amazing moment for me to walk out Old Trafford. Again, I probably wasn't ready to be playing Premier League football then, but of course you don't say I don't want to play, and I enjoyed the game, even though I think I got taken off at about 60 minutes, but I still enjoyed it, and it's still my Premier League debut, and was lucky enough to play against people like Paul Scholes, and I think Berbatov played, people like that. It was incredible moment in my career. So yeah, I always take it down my Premier League debut, but I certainly wasn't a Premier League player then, no chance.
I mean, as you say, you ended up returning to Exeter on loan in 2010. The club in a bit of trouble, and you helped them avoid relegation that season. You must have been delighted with that.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Tiz, and I wanted to finish off the season playing games. I think a couple of my loan spells hadn't worked out at Southend, where I had a transfer embargo, couldn't go there, and there was a few different things. So Tiz said, come and play the last, I think it was 13 games there, maybe a few more, and trying to stay in League One basically. And he said you might play a few different positions, because we had Scott Goldborn was there as left back, and he was doing well. So I said, of course, yeah, I'm happy. I played quite a few games as like left mid, left wing, and ended up, yeah, staying up, which was brilliant, and it was an amazing moment, because something like that is almost as important as a promotion for Exeter as well, to stay in League One. So it was a really good time.
I mean, you played a key part in the goal that kept Exeter in the league as well, nodding the ball down for Ryan Harley to finish. I guess you had a pretty good view of it when it left Ryan's boot.
Yeah, it was a great finish. I can't remember how it sort of got to him, if it was off my head or just like hit off my face or something. But I'll claim the assist. It was an incredible time, really good moment, because like I said, it was so important for the club. But to do it in that manner again, made it more exciting. And Ryan's fantastic technical player, and I'm just pleased it was me laying it off to him and him not laying it off to me, because Exeter might not have stayed up if that was the case.
What were the celebrations like in the changing room after when the whistle went on that game?
I can't really remember massively. Again, everyone was absolutely over the moon, and there was quite a lot of relief, probably because it was getting quite anxious and quite tight. But yeah, very relieved and happy, and I think it was those kind of times again, like I said before with the Wembley one and the Torquay moment. They're ones that you can sort of pinpoint on your career, on your timeline, and that's certainly on my timeline without a doubt. Throughout my time at Exeter and my Exeter career, yeah.
You'd end up joining Doncaster in the Championship then, and established yourself and became captain, winning Supporters Player of the Year and Player of the Year as well. How much did you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was sort of moving my way up the country. I started at Exeter, then went to the Midlands with Wolves, and then I found myself in South Yorkshire. So I was a bit worried I was going to end up in Scotland after that, but it didn't turn out that way. It was an important time for my career at Doncaster, because I played a lot of games in the Championship, and became a championship player in my view, and that enabled me to cement a career, and the last however many years it's been now, 8 years since, as a championship player really, and that's what was really important. I learned a lot from Sean O'Driscoll there, and he gave me the responsibility of being captain, which was good too. And although we got relegated in my last season, it was good to be playing at that level regularly, and it improved me as a player a lot.
You end up signing for Middlesbrough then after that relegation. Was there other interest, or was it Middlesbrough who you were just wanting?
Yeah, I had 3 teams basically. So I had Middlesbrough, Nottingham Forest, and Ipswich, and I went to Middlesbrough first because I planned to go and see all of them first. And I went to Middlesbrough and never made it to the others because I met Tony Mowbray and went around the training ground and saw the stadium and met a couple of players, and I was sold. I mean, it just felt right, and I'm so pleased I didn't go to the other places, because that's been one of the best decisions I've made in my career, going to Middlesbrough for sure.
You were awarded Community Player of the Year for the things that you get up to in the community. And just how important is that to you, that side of being a footballer?
Yeah, it's hugely important. I never really was able to get my teeth into it at other clubs because I had only spent 1 or 2 years at those clubs. So I think because I've been at Exeter for quite a while, Middlesbrough for quite a while, I was able to really get involved with the community. And of course, both my children have been born here. And I have to say, up in Teesside, there's a real spirit and a real community feeling around the club. Like, a lot does revolve around the football club. So it makes it very easy to be part of that community, because I was welcomed in from my first game, and the fans have been amazing. So yeah, it's a big part of it, I feel, as a player. And if you have that special relationship with the area, then I think it's important to try and do that.
Do you feel like your upbringing in Devon and at Exeter sort of helped you to understand the benefits of that kind of thing?
Definitely. I think being, obviously, from my parents, they instilled that early on, but also being at such a great family club like Exeter, and that was my first experience of football and being at a football club. I think that definitely played a part, and I wish I could have done more community stuff when I was at Exeter, but as a young lad, I didn't, and I still lived in North Devon for a lot of the time, but I'd have liked to have got more involved with that for sure. And I'm just pleased I can do it up in Middlesbrough now, and some great people here.
I mean, you've been a fan's favourite probably at all the clubs you've played at. Is that something that you hold deep, cherish as well?
Well, if you're saying I am, then I'll take it. I'm not sure. You might ask some fans; they might not agree, but I think a lot of that is just if you work hard and show you're working hard and put in everything every game, which I've had to do all my career, because when you're not as talented as others, you certainly have to do that to get by. So it's something I've always gone by, and I always think at home, and I've got a gym in my garage, and just on the wall is never give up, and that's what I always go by, no matter what the circumstances are. And a bit of advice my grandfather gave to me before he passed away was play every game as if you're at Wembley. And of course, I've been lucky enough to play at Wembley a couple of times, and that's how I treat every game, whether it was for Exeter in the Conference or Middlesbrough in the Premier League. I've treated every game like that. So I think fans do enjoy it if obviously you're seriously talented and you can do all these things, and I try and do what I can on that side. But what I do know I can do is I can run hard, and I can always give it everything, and they can see that passion. I think that's what helps.
The 2015-16 season saw Middlesbrough get promotion to the Premier League. I mean, what are your memories of that season?
Yeah, I probably wasn't at my fittest in terms. I carried on a few injuries from the season we got promoted, because the season we got promoted, we just put everything into it, and we're playing through all sorts of things. And I didn't think I didn't play as many games as I hoped in the Premier League, but of course I was just immensely proud. I mean, like every kid, I grew up watching Match of the Day, and I'm just pretending to be one of those players in the back garden and wanting to play in the Premier League. So when I finally made that, I was so pleased, so proud. And the current captain, Grant Ledbit, was actually injured, so I walked the lads out for quite a few of the first Premier League games, and that was also a big moment. So it was unfortunate we couldn't stay in the Premier League, but we had some very good players, and it was amazing to be part of, and it was one of my aims and my goals to make it there. So it was, like I said before, on the timeline, it's one of the checkpoints, definitely.
I mean, to make it to the Premier League, it came down to the last day of the season, didn't it? Crunch match, needing a draw to guarantee or get automatic promotion. I mean, was that one of the most important days of your career in some respects, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. Just because of the magnitude of the match and the way it all went down to that last game, and again, the game, as you would expect, wasn't the most exciting because both teams were quite timid and nervous and didn't want to give anything away. But it was the celebration after that, because Middlesbrough hadn't been in the Premier League for quite a while as well. It was an amazing moment, and because I'm still up in the area, of course, as well. It comes back a few more times, and you talk to more people about it. But it was a big moment.
Like you said, you've made 24 appearances in the Premier League, but just how different is it playing in the Premier League to the Championship? You know, how big a step up is it?
Yeah, I think that the players, especially in my position, so I was up against the wingers. You could just see the wingers. Every single one of them isn't just pacey and quick, but their technique, they're strong. It is a big jump, and it's difficult, and I found it difficult at times, and I did well at other times. But I think it makes you appreciate those top players that are consistent, have played all those games in the Premier League. What an amazing feat that is. And I'd love to go, and I'd love to have played more games in the Premier League. But to say I've done it and been there, I'm very proud to say.
And as you said, Middlesbrough would suffer relegation at the end of that season. How did that impact on you at the time?
We were most upset because all the lads that had gained promotion the year before, and like I said, all that effort and hard work we put in to get there, to have only one season there didn't seem right. It didn't seem to match the amount of effort we'd made to get there. But that's the nature of the top. If you're not good enough, you don't hang about, and no one's there to help you. So we did well at the start. We stayed above the water, and then it was until towards the end we crept into the relegation zone, and that it was disappointing the way we went down. But it's in the past. I try not to think about it too much because we'd love to have stayed up, and I really hope Middlesbrough get there again because they deserve to be.
In your personal life, you're heavily involved in the PFA. What does that entail?
So I was on the management committee, which we'd meet every so often just to discuss how it can be improved, what the players are saying on the ground. I'm not on that anymore, but I think at the moment, with everything that's been going on, it's been quite important to have that contact. And I just try and give the lads all the info I can that I know about, because everyone's got questions. There's so much uncertainty, but we'll just have to see how it plays out.
And I believe you have a degree in sports writing as well. I'm guessing you did that whilst alongside playing. Is that something you're going to look to utilise at some point in your career?
Potentially, yeah. It was something I always wanted to do. Like we spoke about at the start, staying on doing my A-levels was because I wanted to go to university, and I was lucky enough to do that while playing at Middlesbrough, getting the journalism degree. So it might be something I go on and do. I think it was more I really wanted to get a degree. Everyone in my family had one, and I felt the odd one out. So I was pleased to have gained it, and it gave me a great focus away from football as well. So we just have to see what the future holds, but maybe, yeah.
You've led into my final question there as well. I have to ask you this, but do you ever see yourself returning to St James Park as a player in the future?
Yeah, of course. I don't know which team I'll be on, but I hope it'd be Exeter. I mean, I think at the moment it's so hard to know what's going on next week, so it could be tricky. But I mean, I've had 2 spells at Exeter, so why not a third? But we'll just have to see how it plays out, and if they'll have me as well. I mean, I'm 32 now, so might not be too keen to get me back. But it's a fantastic club, Exeter, and I'll always be, a place and that's in my heart, and somewhere I always look for the results. Like I said, even more so now I'm close with the manager, but we just have to see how it plays out, and you never know.
I apologise if this starts any transfer rumours.
Wow.
Thanks for your time, George. We're really interested in.
No, great, no problem at all, and yeah, good luck. I hope you guys get to play the playoffs and have that success and get promoted like you deserve.
We've got our fingers crossed, I think.
Nice one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.